It's hump day.
Hump day!
It's hump day.
Hump day!
Our bearded leader, our other fearless leader, isn't here. Oh, here he comes. Hey, everybody, this is Bradley Benner with Semantic Mastery. This is Hump Day Hangouts for August 10th, 2016, episode 92. Wow. It's quite a milestone. Not sure if Adam's coming or not. He's going to be traveling to the ClickFunnels certification event, so I don't know if he's coming today or not, but we are live on Google and Facebook right now. So as far as announcements today, I guess let's run through and say hey to everybody first. So I'm going to go right on down the list in the order that I see them. Chris, how are you?
Doing good. Happy to be back in Austria. How are you doing?
Yeah, I bet, man. Back on your home soil, huh?
Yeah.
And we got Hernan. What's up, Hernan?
Hey guys, hey, what's up? Hey Facebook, hey Google Plus, hey whatever we are broadcasting this. It's really good to be here.
YouTube, and you want to start naming off all the IFTTT properties?
We can. It's gonna take me a while.
And we've got Marco. Hey, Marco.
Hey man, what's up? Since
So-
I didn't mention it yet last week, right? I'm gonna mention it this week. It's warm and sunny in Costa Rica.
Still?
It's
saw
still
this
warm
rain
and
season,
sunny,
man.
That's
What
how it
happened?
is. That's
What
how I roll, man.
What happened to the rain season, man?
It's the rainy season. What can I tell you?
Rain?
So we're like a ship without a rudder when Adam's not here, you know.
Yeah. Let's focus.
And as far as announcements, there's just a couple announcements, guys. We've got what were the announcements again, Marco? I just said them before the. I didn't write them down. I know we've got the Video Marketing Blitz bonus webinar next week, guys. It'll be immediately following Hump Day Hangout. So any of you that purchase Video Marketing Blitz through our link, which is Ab's product, a video, you know, it's a really good video product, and I'm going to be going through a webinar next week and a case study showing what I've been able to do with it in the last couple weeks that I've been playing with it. So that's next Wednesday at 5 p.m. What else did I say we were going to talk about? Does anybody else remember?
Nope.
See what happens. I don't
Something
take notes.
about giving people the opportunity to sell our stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was the other one. Thank you. Content Kingpin. That's the next product that we're launching under the Mastery PR brand. That launches on August 30th. It's Tuesday, August 30th. If you guys are interested in promoting that, you can find it on JV Zoo, or Hernan can drop the JV link on the page if you guys want to check it out. You know, and promote. If not, it's going to be a really good product on content marketing and curation and video curation and all kinds of really good stuff. So check that out as well. Okay. So that was it, right, for announcements? All right, cool. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and grab the screen, and we're going to get into questions. Let me make sure I got the right window here. Tell you what I'm going to do. Got too many windows open again, as usual, so just give me 1 second, guys. Okay, we should be good to go. Everybody, can you confirm for me that you're seeing what you're supposed to on the event page?
We can.
Yep. Okay, good. All right, we're going to get straight into it. Mark O'Connell's got the first one. Hi, guys, quick one for you. Let's say I created a public Google spreadsheet with all of my IFTTT properties and their RSS feeds, then embed this one into one of my blog posts that will syndicate through my Tier 1. And let's say that I also snuck into the embed code a naughty little keyword. Am I in trouble? No, not at all. That works really well. Marco, I'm going to let you talk about that one a little bit since that's more your avenue.
Yeah, you know, as we mentioned before, all credit goes back to the source URL. So what you're directing everything to is that spreadsheet. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, that's a Google spreadsheet and it's public and everything's there. Google can stand the abuse. I mean, your blog wouldn't if it were being looked at that way. But since it's embedded, you're actually publishing content that's in Google, and this is for right now. So please, whenever I say anything, don't think that I'm telling you that 10 years from now this shit's gonna work, because it might not work. But right now it's working really well. So yeah, go ahead, push it.
Yeah, it does. And putting the keywords in the spreadsheets is a good idea because, especially, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can put the keyword and actually hyperlink the keyword within the cell in the spreadsheet, which would give you kind of like a keyword anchor text. It's not quite the same because of the way that Google redirects, but it still associates that keyword with the link itself. The other way you could do it is by separating your columns and putting, let's say, keywords in like the left column, for example, and in your links on the right column, so that you get the association is made. It's another form of co-citation. It's another word, or it's a citation link. And when you have a keyword in close proximity to your link, there's a transfer of keyword relevancy there through that link, just based on its being close in proximity to the actual link itself. So you can do it either way. But yeah, it's absolutely a good strategy.
Yeah, let's go one better than that. You go keyword, you go link, and then you go the Google shortened link, and then you're giving Google all sorts of information wherever that's embedded. Anyone looking at that, any bot looking at that, Google's going to take that as activity on that page, on that spreadsheet, but everything's going to filter back to the source. And then from the source, if you have a link to the original website, to the thing that you're really looking to rank, then the juice flows out and it comes back, and it flows back out to whatever link you're directing it to. So you kind of have to play, right? Remember how we've talked about the spider web silo, right? Where nothing works the way that it's supposed to inside the things that we manipulate. And this is one of those things where you can direct it anywhere you want. And the power, the trust is going to be pushed in any direction, inside wherever that file is contained, and it'll go to all of the links that are contained within that file and to the final destination. And I don't want to get into too much more because
I was going to say,
goes on in RYS.
I give away the farm all the time, man. Shit. And Hernan, did you want to comment on that as well?
Yeah, I wanted to say real quick that without giving away too much, also you can get real nasty with embeds. You know, if you embed that spreadsheet on some other places, like Tumblr, then you can embed the Tumblr post someplace else. But yeah, I'm gonna stop that because otherwise we're giving away too much. So I don't know if Mark is part of RYS Academy. If you're not, Mark, all of this nasty stuff is taught is in over there. So.
Can I give away one since you guys all got two?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so another one would be something like, you guys know you can embed Google Plus posts. And so what you can do is take a Drive file and create a Google Plus post with the Drive link, make it a public link, obviously, and then create a Google Plus post, and then you can embed the Google Plus post inside of a WordPress site, a Tumblr site, whatever. And so you end up having multiple iframe stacks, originating with Drive, then having Google Plus wrap that iframe with its own iframe, and then you embed that inside of a WordPress or a Tumblr post or whatever. So you get multiple stacks, and you're talking about Google properties. Stack it, put that Google Plus post inside of a Blogger blog. Now you've got 3 Google properties or a Google site. And she's like, okay, I've given away enough. I'll stop.
Yeah, that's enough. Come to RYS, learn the rest.
Nate's here. What's up, Nate? Greg says, I want to spend some money and purchase the backlink service on SerpSpace. Would it be possible to get a clearer understanding on what URLs are best to submit in this case? Yeah, Greg, pretty much all of them from your Tier 1 network. Or if you're buying for a full 2-tier network, you can actually spread it across all networks if you'd like. Typically what I do is I always boost the Tier 1 properties, always, but I don't always boost the Tier 2 properties. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It just depends on if it needs it or not. But I always end up taking, whenever I build a Tier 1 network for a client or a lead gen site or whatever, then I end up sending it over to get the links built. And I just have links built to all the the profile URLs, the home page of all of the different sites in the IFTTT network. That's what I do. Some people only like to build links to the do follow, properties that provide do follow links. I don't think that's natural looking, So I like to just basically spread the entire link package out across all the properties in the network. And again, I do it to the home page because you get more effect if you were to actually take individual post URLs from the IFTTT network and build links to that. But then you're limiting the link juice to only being effective for that one post, and it doesn't spread across the rest of the site. Now, if you did some internal linking stuff, you could, but that's way too much manual work. For efficiency reasons and just for automation reasons, all I do is take the profile links from the IFTTT spreadsheet, right out of the column, and just copy all the links right out of that column, paste them into the serve space order form, and that's it. And then I just have all the links distributed evenly across those, because then essentially what happens is every time a new post is published to your own site or your own YouTube channel, whichever, and it syndicates across the Tier 1 branded network, or the Tier 1 network, it doesn't have to be branded, all of the posts are going to be on that home page, right? And so they're going to receive all that extra juice from the inbound links pointing to the home pages. And usually the way that the blogs paginate, which means it'll show like 10 posts on the front page before it goes to page 2. So your post gets the benefit of all that juice flowing from the home page for some time in the future until it paginates because of another post pushing it off eventually, which will happen eventually. But usually by then it's settled in its rankings. So I don't, unless it's really competitive, in which case you might want to build additional links to the individual post URLs. But again, I do it just strictly for speed and efficiency reasons. Is it just so easy to just grab, once the network's built, I get it returned from our builders, I just copy the column, paste it in the orders form, and generate my keyword list, whatever, and then send it to get the links built to the home page, and then I don't have to think about it anymore. It's done. And I like I said, I like to spread them evenly across all the properties because it looks more natural to have inbound links built to all of the properties instead of just a select few, especially ones with do follow links, if that makes sense. What do you think, Hernan?
Yeah, I think I usually do the same, and as you said, unless I need to specifically push a post, those posts that are on page 2 or bottom page 1 that you want to push them upwards, unless that's the case, then if I want to build like general authority to the network, that's what I do as well. Now, you need to have in mind what kind of links we are creating to the networks. We are creating a couple tiers of links, and that's where the power resides, because we could be spamming the networks, and that's not the idea, because those are branded properties, and those are really valuable properties because they can generate a sale, they can bring traffic, etc. So the main idea here, and this is when we develop the link building packages, the idea is that your syndication network properties, they only get contextual backlinks, that we can create with Turbo Web 2.0, GSA, FCS Networker, Zenoposter Pro, all of the tools that can create a Web 2.0 contextual. And by contextual, we mean, relevant piece of content and relevant, relevant context that's surrounding the link. Those are the links that we are sending to the properties directly, and then we are spamming those. We are spamming the contextual automated backlinks. So the spam comes like 3 or 4 hoops after, after the syndication network. So that's how we are managing to do that. And you need to understand also that there's an amount of link that we're sending. The mass of links is not being sent directly to the IFTTT networks, but rather we are using buffers in between. Like right. You only get a handful of links per property, and that's on purpose. That's on purpose because we don't want to ruin them. We don't want to burn them. So. Yep.
And the other thing, Greg, keep this in mind too. The link building service is good for IFTTT networks, whether it's Tier 1, Tier 2, it doesn't matter. Also, they're great for citations. So if you're doing local work, and you can also point directly to YouTube if you'd like. You can do that. We will not accept money site URLs because we won't. We're not going to build spam links directly to a money site. Or using spam tools. We don't do it ourselves, so we wouldn't offer that as a service either. But citations are also a really good press releases. Any sort of tier 1 property is a good property to use for the link building service, because just like Hernan just explained, we don't spam them. I call it spam because we're using a spam link tool, but we don't throw like kitchen sink spam directly at the tier 1 links. We put a buffer of higher quality spam links, if that's possible, between the kitchen sink spam and the tier 1 links that are our target URLs, if that makes sense. Okay. Okay, Dean's next. He says, I'm used to linking PBNs and other links to money sites, and I'm used to the time frame it takes to show progress. My question is, if I was to link the PBNs and others to a single PBN and link it to my money site or my IFTTT network, one branded ring that links to my money site, what difference in time frame is there for progress, etc.? Just that I'm scared to spend money linking to a PBN or IFTTT to find that it takes much more time / money to get the effect showing on the money site's ranks. Thanks, guys. There is a little bit more of a delay between, at least, it's not always the case, but most of the time, unless you have an unusually powerful link that you find and you point it to a buffer site first, in which case you can see results very, very quickly. But for the most part, whenever I'm building through a buffer site, so I'm building links to a buffer site that links to my money site, I find that it's a slower effect on the results than if it's a direct link to the money site. But I don't mind because it's safer. It's a safer approach that way. And so I don't have a specific timetable, like, because I know it varies. And again, it depends on the strength of the links that you're going to be pointing to the actual buffer site. If it's a particularly powerful link, you should see a result, an effect much quicker than if it's a standard strength link or a weak link for that matter. So it really depends. But yeah, I don't know that there's a specific formula for that. I've never made enough detailed notes to be able to determine that if there is. Do you guys have any input on that?
Well, it used to be like if you pointed a PBN link to a website or a web page, it used to be like maybe 1 to 2 weeks tops, But now things are getting slower because Google is rolling out updates every month. And you need to have in mind also, Dean, that if you get like a really powerful backlink and you point it to a website, or you get a 301, for example, and you get a nice drop from blue chip backlinks, and you point it, you 301 that to a website, to a web page, there's a high chance that you will get the exact opposite effect that you were looking.
Yeah, it'll drop.
Yeah, you will see a drop. And that patent from Google. I think Marco shared with us or something like that. And that's on purpose as well.
It's a trap.
Because if you will panic and go back and eliminate the link, and that's exactly what they are aiming to do. To trigger that fear, quote unquote. And that's exactly why you want to take it easy on PBNs. I've seen better results. Like better results, I mean like slower results, but more consistent in time. Like for example, right now, if you point a link to a PBN link to a website, you can see maybe on 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, you can see a bump, but then it slowly starts to go down again. Because it's a dead link. It doesn't have any social signals, any social interaction, any validation, anything. Now, when you do that through an IFTTT network, maybe it takes longer, but the results are more consistent in time because you're going through a buffer that has high DA, high trust flow, whatever. Right. So have that in mind. If you're in a rush, do PPC. Because otherwise you will be messing up with your rankings. Because that's exactly what Google wants to do. So.
Yeah, I spoke about these two effects, or I wrote about them back in December. Both the Google Dance and what I called back then the death of the PBN, right. which is exactly what you're showing. If you buy just a website that's out there in the middle of nowhere and all it's doing is providing a link back to another website, then it's obvious what the purpose for that website that you purchased, and so that's going to atrophy over time. It's going to lose power over time. The way that we've overcome that, now Bradley does it a specific way, but another way to overcome it, another way to show social signals or whatever, is to drop an IFTTT ring especially if it's really powerful, and get those social signals going, get curated content going throughout that's related to whatever it is that you're pointing the link to, and then all of a sudden it becomes that much more powerful. Yep. When you do that, when you start link building, that's when the Google Dance might kick in. Not always, but it does. And when it does, you can't do any type of link building. You have to leave it alone. You can't undo it. You just have to leave it alone for at least 21 days to see where it's going to settle, because it'll start. It's called the dance for a reason. It'll move up. It'll come down. It'll move up. You know, it's Google teasing you. Look what's happening. And of course, we as SEOs tend to panic unless you know what it is that you're looking at on that ranking graph. When you see that dance, you know, I'm not touching it. I'm just going to go and produce content and do everything else that I usually do. I'm going to leave it alone for 21 days, which is 3, maybe 4 weeks, until it settles back to whatever position Google is going to determine that it deserves. And that's when you decide the next step to do. Now we're talking about a time frame of at least a month from the time that you buy your PBN and you point it at your property, and it starts dancing before you can do any other type of link building to the property, or else you kill it. If you get sandboxed permanently, that's it. It's all over. You're not going to move past wherever it is that it's dancing. In that general range, that's where it's going to stay. And it's just Google's way of killing, or one of the ways of killing PBNs, or catching SEOs, right? They spring the trap, and all of a sudden you're sandboxed and you don't know why. You keep pushing and you keep pushing and you keep triggering the Google Dance until you get permanently sandboxed.
That's right. The other thing you can do, which is it's been working well for me too now for several months, is also like, for example, when Marco said that I do it a different way, because I don't build PBNs anymore. I just rebuilt expired domains so that I don't have to worry about producing content at all anymore. And something that works fairly well with that too is because we're losing the ability to attach an IFTTT network and publish consistently, which gives that PBN site and what I call a private link network site, because I'm not using it as a blog anymore. It's not a private blog site if I'm not blogging on it, right? It's a private link site. And so since I don't create a blog on those domains anymore, I'm not publishing content, and I don't have an IFTTT ring around it, so I'm not triggering all those or providing all those signals that Google wants to see. So there's a hack, a workaround for that I've been doing, which is using crowd search, because then at least I send traffic signals through the private link network, the rebuilt aged domain that I purchased. I send traffic through that link to my money site or to whatever site it is that I'm linking to. And those are traffic or engagement signals. So even though it's not getting the social validation and everything else that a PBN site would, that would have an IFTTT network around it, I'm still giving the engagement signals by sending traffic through the links from that private link network site. So that's another option. And yeah, and in case you guys haven't seen the webinar we did on how to do all that kind of stuff, referral traffic using crowd search, if you just do a search on Google for crowd search demo 2016, you'll see our video at the top, and I did an hour-long webinar specifically about how I use crowd search for referral traffic, and it's a very, very powerful method.
I'm gonna put the link on the events page, so
okay,
if
cool.
you guys want to.
Okay, Wong, he is new. He says, "Hi, Semantic Mastery team. My name is Wang. I'm sorry." And he says, "I just joined IFTTT SEO Academy V2 and completed my first network. I would +1 that, but I'm not logged in into this browser. Somebody go +1 that. I wanted to order link building services and server space to power up my IFTTT properties. I want to ask, should I power up all 20+ properties?" Okay, we just answered this question for somebody else. For YouTube syndication, yeah, I recommend just powering up all the networks, or excuse me, all the network properties. And if you have a full 2-tier network for YouTube syndication, like I mentioned earlier, I don't always power up my 2-tier networks, the second tiers. I often do for YouTube stuff, but generally what I do for YouTube is I use test channels to when I'm trying to get into a new industry or a new niche or new location or something. I'll use test channels that have one tier 2, full 2-tier network around that channel. And then if I identify some, some areas that I'm going. If I identify keywords that I'm going to go after that have some level of competition, so they're not just slam dunks like I rank it instantly, but I know that there's some competition. I know there's competition, but I know that I can win. I can get there. I can get where I want to be with the networks. Then what I usually do is I build up a money channel for that particular industry or niche or whatever, and I'll end up stacking multiple full two-tier networks on that one channel. And you know, I usually don't go more than like 5 full two-tier networks, but that's a lot because that ends up being like 20 IFTTT rings that it goes through it. You know, that every video gets syndicated to. So very, very powerful. But for YouTube syndication, like if you're just starting out, I would recommend, without a doubt, always boosting your tier 1. And if you've got a full two-tier network, which you should for YouTube, guys, for YouTube you should always use full two-tier networks because you can. And there's no footprint issues, there's no issues whatsoever, so you ought to just be using full two-tier networks for YouTube, period. And then if that's the case, go ahead and start powering up those two. If I had to only choose one ring, I would absolutely make it the tier 1 ring, but it's definitely powerful to even power up the tier 2s as well. Okay, and again, as I mentioned earlier, just do all the properties. It just looks more natural that way. Greg says, quick question, have you tested long-term effects using Google Apps emails for branded networks? I have not, Greg. I've never used Google Apps emails anyways, so I really have no experience on that whatsoever. Has anybody else here tested that?
No, no Google Apps emails.
No.
Okay.
No. I have used branded emails like hernan@domain.com for
webmails, yeah.
Yeah, webmails, yeah, but not Google Apps.
Yep. In fact, usually for branded networks, guys, for websites, not for YouTube syndication, but for blog syndication, I usually end up having the emails or all the accounts created using the webmail account instead of the Gmail account, because what happens is in case, and very rarely do branded properties ever get terminated, branded networks. Do they ever? Very, very rarely do the Google accounts for branded networks ever get terminated. It has happened, especially if I'm doing something particularly spammy with them. But it's very rare that happens. But in the past, I've had it happen where I've had a branded network Google account shut down. And what sucks is then when you have to rebuild a new, create a new Google account, and then if you had signed up with the Gmail account for all of the other accounts, you have to go in and change the email address to the new email address. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. It just is, I don't do it anymore myself. I just hand it over to one of my VAs. But if that happens, but it's still unnecessary work. So if you're building a branded network for a website and you have access to webmail, then I create a webmail account specifically for building that network, and then I'll create all of or have the VAs create all of the accounts using that webmail account, and that way, if the Google account were ever to get terminated for some reason or another, it wouldn't affect all those other accounts in the network. They would still have notifications and everything because those were all going to a webmail account instead of Gmail, if that makes sense. But again, that's just if you're building your own networks. Obviously, if you're ordering from us, that's not going to work. We're just going to produce the network sites using the Gmail account that we create. But if you're doing it for yourself, then that's an extra step that you could do to prevent additional work if God forbid the Google account got terminated. So Paul says, hey guys, I have a new client that has 2 sites with duplicate content on both. Site A has some ranking on first page but no metrics. Site B has good metrics but no ranking. So my question is, if I take Site A down, will the simple 301 redirect to Site B fix the problem of duplicate content and save the ranking on Google? Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to, Paul, without looking at both of the sites, if it's an exact duplicate site, then the on page is going to be the same. But I'd look at the off page. You say one has no metrics and one has good metrics, but it's not ranking as well. There's a reason why there. There's a reason why. So you say it's got good metrics, but it doesn't mean it's got a clean link profile. You can have a really high metrics, but still have a really shitty link profile. Could be what's causing it not to rank. But just so you know, when you do a 301 redirect, the site that you're redirecting is no longer indexable. So it will absolutely clear any duplicate content issues because that page disappears in Google's eyes. It gets redirected, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is I don't know, from what you're saying, if Site A is the one that's ranking and Site B is the one that had metrics but it's not ranking or it's ranking on page 2, then what I would do is instead of redirecting site A to site B, which you'd be like taking the one that's ranking and pointing it to the one that's not ranking, that to me seems backwards. I would want to redirect site B to site A and monitor site A and see what happens. Just like we talked about earlier on this webinar, you probably will see a drop immediately, but then after a few days or a few weeks, you should see it come back and settle in if there is not a problem. But if site B does have some, even though you say it's got good metrics, it could have some issues with the backlink profile, and that's why it's not ranking. And if that's the case, it could cause site A to pull down too. But then all you have to do is remove the 301 redirect, and theoretically, the site A should come back to where it was before you did the redirect to begin with. Right? But that's something you could do. Something else you could test is if it is an exact duplicate, Paul, you could go into site B and set the canonical to point to site A and see if that fixes the problem. It does something similar to a 301 redirect, but it's not an actual physical redirect. It would leave both pages indexable, but Google would push all the credit from site B to site A, or whatever you point the canonical to, if that makes sense. All right. Scott's got a slew of questions here. We'll try to run through these very quickly. Typically, we ask you guys to post, 1 or 2 questions at a time, and then wait and post the other ones so that other people can have a chance. But we'll go ahead and answer these. He says, "Hello, I notice you don't use Instagram or Snapchat, which are 2 of the most popular sites on the internet, which gets lots of traffic. Does IFTTT not support these sites? Are we missing out on a lot of traffic by not using these sites?" Well, IFTTT, as far as I know, does not support those sites. Besides that, I just flat out don't use those 2 sites. It's just not something I've ever done. So Instagram or Snapchat. I do have a Snapchat profile, but I still haven't even played with it yet. So I just don't use it. Period, guys. If you I don't know, Hernan, are those channels in IFTTT? I don't even think they are.
No.
Well, sorry, Marco, but Instagram, for example, it is, but you can only post from Instagram to someplace else because Instagram, being a mobile app, is not allowed. It's actually against Instagram terms to post, anywhere else than on a mobile phone. So you can post, for example, if you upload something to Instagram, you can get it syndicated for to Pinterest or to Flickr, to Facebook, whatever, to Twitter. Snapchat, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think there is, but I know that there's a market there. We might go into the rant mastery that we want to do. Some of us might go through Facebook Live. Some of us may go through Snapchat, but there's no way we can post to these applications.
Snapchat is not in IFTTT. I just checked.
Yeah, Instagram it is, but as a trigger, not as an action that we can post to. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it can't be used. You can build. I mean, if you're really into whatever social media property it is that you're talking about, you can build an IFTTT network specifically for that, just like we do with Twitter SEO Academy. I mean, we did that, and it's not that we don't use it. We do use Instagram. We just have someone that goes in there and publishes content for us, right? We have our social media manager that does stuff there, in Facebook, in Twitter. It just complements whatever it is that you're doing. Yeah. You can't just make your blog ground zero and just do everything from your blog, because that's not what the regular Joe does, right? Because they'll be going into Instagram.
Well, we try to do that where possible, but things like Instagram and Snapchat are third-party applications that you have to use beyond your blog if you want to use them, and there's certainly traffic there. It's just not something I've ever taken the time to learn how to do. So, that's why it's not in the training. If we were using it, Scott, he would be in the training. Let's put it that way.
I mean, something that's worked really well for me is I had a project and this woman, I mean, her home is her Facebook page, and she didn't want to go bother with a blog. She didn't want to do any of that. And so the way that we got around that is that we said, okay, well, we'll just make Facebook ground zero, and we'll make that the trigger for everything else, and it's worked really well.
Yeah, it's not just about SEO; it's about driving traffic, right?
That's what the end result that you want is people visiting whatever it is that you're trying to promote.
That's right. Okay, he says, next question, with the way you guys set up IFTTT as Tier 1, then having links pointing to IFTTT for power, does this Tier 1 buffer typically keep the site's videos more protected from Google updates? With these techniques taught, how long do you guys maintain rankings for on average? Yeah, I mean, that's in part, in the training, Scott, I talk about the IFTTT branded, or the Tier 1 network acting as an SEO firewall. And that's in part another reason why we use it, because it does protect the money site from additional link building stuff that we do, because all the additional link building stuff that we do it goes to the Tier 1 networks or other Tier 1 properties. They don't have to be IFTTT properties, guys. Those are just like, it's just standard operating procedure for everything we build to have a network, but there are other things that we do. So whenever we're building links to our money site, or whenever we're link building, I typically don't build, unless I'm very, very selective, I typically don't build links directly to the money site. I build them to the Tier 1 properties. Most of the time the IFTTT networks, but also other Tier 1 properties like press releases and citations and things like that. Okay, and that way we're using them as buffers, guys. And that's like SEO or link building 101. I mean, and it has been for years. So there's nothing new about that. Does it protect from Google updates? Well, so far, I mean, again, knock on wood, I've been using the IFTTT strategy now for 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. For over 4 years now, and I haven't had any issues with that. So that's exactly why it does protect from updates, because I do some nasty things beyond the IFTTT networks. In other words, outside of that, I do some pretty nasty things and luckily those networks have been able to protect my site from any particular wrath. You know what I mean? So, and how long do they maintain rankings for on average? Well, it depends, Scott. It really depends on the competitive, the competition in the industry or the keywords that you're competing in. That has a huge effect or a huge factor on how long something maintains the rankings. Also, if you're in an industry where content freshness factor is important, then you need to continually publish. That's key. Even if you're in an industry that's not a particularly content-heavy industry, you still should be updating on a regular and consistent basis. So that means blogging, because that's in part what gives these networks their power. Okay, so even like a roofer, for example, should be posting at least once per week, in my opinion, on their blog, because that's going to, you know what I mean? Because that's going to continually update their networks with fresh content. It's going to continually feed Google those signals that it's looking for. It's going to continually post to their Google Plus page or their Google Plus local page, Google My Business local page. So that's going to feed additional signals to Google. So that's why I said, how long will rankings be maintained from an IFTTT network? There's too many variables for me to answer that question. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis. Every case is going to be different. All right, next one. Scott says, when naming links, you always make it Get It Done YouTube, Get It Done Blogger. Can we just make the link? Scott, you can name them whatever you want. Okay? Guys, those were just guidelines. I said that in the training. It's just guidelines. You guys are free to change stuff if you'd like. You're free to experiment. In fact, I encourage you to experiment, because that's how you get good at SEO, guys. Just following instructions is great to get started, but you should be doing tests on your own and testing and trying to learn, because that's how you really get good at this stuff. Following instructions is really good when you don't know what you're doing. It's a great way to get started, guys, but you should be trying to create your own flavor of SEO, so to speak. So, Scott, play around with that, okay? You can just put YouTube, Blogger, whatever you want. Name it. You can name them anything you want, buddy. Next one, Scott. Sorry, go ahead.
If I can just pop in, I encourage people to just push boundaries, man. Do whatever you want. Just make sure that you don't care about whatever it is that you're working on, because if you do care about it and
don't test with it,
right, you're risking losing it. And so just make it something and just push it and hammer it and do whatever you can to it. Keep notes, keep good records, and this way well, that definitely didn't work because I got de-indexed. So now you know what gets you de-indexed, right? So you roll back a little. Maybe you try it a different way. The way that we do it, the way that we give it to you is how you can be as safe as we've determined through our testing, as safe as you can be. That's not saying that you're completely safe, but dude, just push, keep testing, and keep going. It's the only way to learn. The only way to learn is to break stuff.
And here's a trick that because I used to create test properties strictly for testing, which was great because I learned a lot, and I still set up test properties now, but now when I set up test properties, there's a monetization aspect to it. In other words, I don't just set up test properties specifically just for testing. I set up with the idea that if this test is successful, I can make money from it. So my point is you can set up like lead gen sites, for example, for testing, because those are assets that you own. They're not clients' properties, right? They're not all properties that are already producing revenue for you. So you can set up test lead gen properties, for example, or test affiliate campaigns, or test CPA campaigns, whatever you want. Just set up something with the goal of testing, but also knowing that if the test is successful, you can monetize it. Because there's no reason in setting something up for testing purposes just to learn. That's great, because you can learn, so that's the benefit. But if you can also make money from what you've learned at the exact same time from that test property, you already put the work in, why not make money from it? You know what I mean? So that's why I have a lot of different lead gen properties, guys, that are outside of my main industry, which is tree service, that I set up just as test sites that were able to actually produce revenue for me because they were successful tests. I've also lost a lot of them. So I've got more failed tests than I have successful tests, I can tell you that. All right, last one from Scott. Do you guys provide actual notes, or can you provide actual notes for IFTTT V2 videos? I notice you do have perfect notes in the videos, but they aren't provided. They're not provided on the sides, or on the side. Excuse me. You probably give those notes to your outsourcers. You're correct, Scott. I do. Can you provide those notes? No, I'm sorry, Scott. Those are working procedures that I've developed for our outsourcers, and everything that is needed is inside the training already. The notes that we provide to our outsourcers are more proprietary because they have specific things that we do. Specific to the projects that we work on, and I can't share those with you. I'm sorry. I think everything in there. You're the only person so far that I know of that has asked for that, Scott. So I think everything that is needed is listed in the description area of the video, other than just literally written out step by steps, which we call working procedures, and those are proprietary. So I can't share those. I apologize for that. John says, have a multi-location client on WP multi-site. Excuse me, we're using a tiered IFTTT network for the main HQ's root RSS feed with your plugin. Each location subsite also has its own city-themed blog, and 2.0 since the HQ isn't location-specific. Okay. For the location pages, it is safe to syndicate the HQ RSS feeds post through the city blogs, excuse me, as long as we blend that with other location-based content and use attribution. Is it safe to syndicate the RSS feeds post through the city blogs? I'm not sure what you mean. Are you talking about using the subdomain city sites as syndication points from your main site? You could, but why not just use your main site as the syndication point and feed it directly to your branded IFTTT network that then points links back? You can build contextual links within the post to point to the subdomain sites if that's what you're trying to do. Maybe I'm not understanding the question. Am I interpreting that correctly, guys, or is that somebody else want to take a stab at this?
No, I think you correctly. I understand the same that you were saying, Bradley. So I want to know if you're doing a branded, well, if you're doing tiered, maybe, but if you're doing a branded network, why would you want to do to blend them with other location-based content and use attribution? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Typically, what we do, John, and we talk about this almost every week on Hump Day Hangout. So this is certainly one of our frequently asked questions. With multi-locations, and I don't know anything about WP multi-site. I've never used it, never. So I have no idea what that. Maybe there's something specific to WP multi-site that you're asking that I'm just not understanding. But what I do with root domains, when I have multiple locations, which I have a lot of those, and I create the locations on subdomains where I use the city as the subdomain name. And then what I'll do is I blog through the root domain, or my virtual assistants do the blogging through the root domain that covers all of the subdomain sites. So we're only syndicating from the root domain to one branded IFTTT network. And then what we do is within the blog post, we set up silos on the root domain, location silos. So the top level category will be a city. So each every subdomain site will have its own category on the root domain, if that makes sense. So, like, you know, it'll be, for example, in Virginia, I might have a Fairfax category and a Prince William County category and a Stafford County category, something like that, because I have those subdomains already on that I'm using as location sites. So then what we do is blog from the root and put the posts within the proper categories whenever I'm linking, building contextual links from inside the blog post to the subdomain site. Because that way I'm still building links to all the subdomain sites through syndication, but I'm doing it from one blog instead of multiple blogs. It just is easier on the virtual assistants. I only have to maintain one ring, you know, one IFTTT ring. If I find that any one of the subdomains aren't getting, you know, I'm not seeing the results as quickly as I would like because maybe there's more competition, whatever, then I can always go in and build a location-based, location-specific IFTTT ring for that particular subdomain, and then start blogging through that subdomain blog instead of from the root. And that's only when I only do that when necessary, and that's only when the root domain blogging strategy does not work, or doesn't work as quickly as I wanted it to. Because, like I said, when you've got multiple locations, it's so much easier on a management level to manage when you're just dealing with one network and one blog point. So that's typically how we do it. Okay. Excuse me. All right. Clark says, I have Video Marketing Blitz, with it, I can find hundreds of keywords that will rank videos on Google. My question is, how many and how fast can we safely put videos into our branded IFTTT network? Great question, Clark. What I recommend is no more than 5 videos per channel per hour period. So if, like, for example, I've got it too, and we're going to be doing the bonus webinar next week after the after Hump Day Hangouts. We're going to do the bonus webinar, and we'll talk all about this. But my point is, like right now, the testing that I have, I only have 5 money channels. Each channel has its own IFTTT network. So every time I do the poking first through test channels that have no networks, they have no association with any other property on the web. They're just strictly spam YouTube channels. And I use them to test or poke keywords. Once I have identified keywords that will rank with no SEO work, then I go produce those videos through and publish them or whatever, upload them through my money channels. And my money channels have networks around them. But I limit it to no more than 5 videos in a 24-hour period. I'm sure there's other people here that can spam the hell out of their YouTube channels, their money channels, and probably get away with a lot more than that. But I always try. I hate losing channels, so I try to keep it to 5 videos in a 24-hour period per channel, and that's it. That way I don't lose the channels. Okay, because here's the thing. Even if you were to pump out 10 or 12 videos or 15 videos on a channel that has an IFTTT network around it in one day, you're posting to your IFTTT properties, your you know, WordPress, Tumblr, and all those 15 times in a day, and that can raise a flag very quickly and get your accounts terminated. So I hate rework, guys. I just can't stand doing rework. So I try to make my properties last as long as possible. What's all the big hoopla about Google's change on embedded videos? I didn't know there was a big hoopla, Wayne. This is news to me. Huh. I'd like to know what you're talking about. If you can drop a link, Wayne, I'd love to know what you're talking about. We won't have time to cover it today, but if you can drop one in the mastermind, we can start a discussion there too. DC Glenn, whoop, there it is. Okay, he says, if I have 2 entities using the same address, can I make one citation unique to one brand and the other unique to the second and get away with it? Yes, you can. Yes. Okay. I'm not really trying to rank for local, but I want my citations to pass quality juice back to my sites. Is there a penalty for this method, or is there a better way? No, there's no penalty, DC. What you need to do, though, is the names are unique, but the addresses are the same. So what you need to do is make sure that the other 2 data points are going to be different as well. So usually we think of local as NAP, name, address, and phone number, but there's also web address, right? That's also part of it, right? In my opinion, the NAP itself includes the web address, at least for what we're talking about here. You can share one data point across multiple listings without it causing any NAP issues. If you share 2 data points, then it can cause problems. So in your example here, you've got 2 unique business names. They share the same location, but if you have 2 unique phone numbers and 2 unique web addresses, you should be good to go. I haven't experienced any problems from that. As soon as you start sharing 2 data points, then that's where you start accruing just massive amounts of NAP issues, guys. And there's nothing worse than having to clean up NAP issues, guys. And that's why I don't recommend any of you ever do it on your own. What I recommend you do is hire somebody to do it. There's several services out there. My favorite for citation cleanup is Loganix. And Loganix has a citation cleanup service. It's about $500, but it's the best that I found for the U.S. market, anyways. Okay. Okay, Hernan's yelling at me. He took over Adam's position. Giving you a 5-minute warning.
Somebody has to do it.
Tucson, we buy houses with IFTTT and YouTube. You stated that you can have multiple YouTube accounts tied to the same IFTTT account. No. You can have multiple YouTube accounts tied to the same IFTTT network, but you have to have, you can only have one channel, one YouTube channel to any one IFTTT account. So you can have one IFTTT network and you could have 5 different channels feeding into one network if you want, but each channel has to have its own IFTTT account, and then the network properties all have to be connected to each IFTTT account, if that makes sense. Okay. When you do that, do you have to add the recipes over again to the YouTube channel that you just added? Well, yeah, because each IFTTT account, remember, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, YouTube to IFTTT. Now, the network properties that we syndicate to, those can be shared across multiple IFTTT accounts, but you have to recreate the recipes every time. And you don't have to create them. All you got to do is copy them from the spreadsheet that we provide to you, paste them, and then just edit the a couple ingredient details, and that's it. But yes, every IFTTT account will have to recreate the recipes. Okay. Ganti, what are the differences between the old curation course and the new content kingpin course? I know that if I buy the old one, I will get the new one for free. If I buy the new one, what info is in the old one is lost? Asking this question because of the price differential. Thank you. Ganti, that's a great question. The original one called Curation Mastery, that also included some outsourcer training stuff on how to outsource the content marketing part of it. But since we just developed Outsource Kingpin for Mastery PR, we launched that last month. Was that last month, guys? It seems like such a blur to me anymore. I think it was 2 months ago at the end of June. It was at the end of June.
It was the end of June.
Yeah, it was the end of June. Since we basically the new version, which is Content Kingpin, it's been updated. There's obviously been some changes. There's been additional content added, some additional things that we've done, but also we removed the outsourcer part of it because now we have Outsource Kingpin, which is a separate course. So Ganti, if you haven't already purchased Curation Mastery, don't. Just wait. Content Kingpin is going to be released in 3 weeks, and you can purchase that, and you'll have everything you need. If you want the outsourcing training, that's a separate course now. It's Outsource Kingpin. So, which, by the way, if you're going to be doing the content marketing business, guys, you should be outsourcing that. It's not something you should do. And you can literally make money for just managing projects, which is so easy to do. Once you learn how to train outsourcers to curate, it's really simple. The training that we're going to be Content Kingpin, when that launches at the end of this month, you guys can pick that up, put your VAs through the course, use your account. I don't even care. Buy your account, put your VAs through it. I don't care. That's fine. Train your VAs how to curate and be content do content marketing for clients or for your own sites, whatever. Just pay them to do it. Don't do it yourself. You don't need to.
Yeah, you can share our stuff with your VAs. You just can't share it in Black Hat forums, man.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, we got one more question we're going to answer, and then we're going to be done. Kevin says, can we still use the normal YouTube RSS feed from our channel to our IFTTT ring since YouTube changed the RSS feeds to take the embed out, and it's only a link? Not sure if that's right. How do we use YouTube RSS for syndication then? Yeah, Kevin, we don't recommend it anymore. Since YouTube changed their RSS feeds and they're no longer embeds, they're just links. We don't recommend using those. All I recommend for the YouTube RSS feed is just submitting it to directories and aggregators, and that's it. And like pingers. But that's all I recommend doing with the YouTube RSS feed, because now if you get Lisa Allen's rank feeder, RSS Authority Sniper and then rank feeder, her rank feeder application will actually create the old style YouTube RSS feeds with the embeds and everything that are syndicatable embeds. So if you want that functionality again, then you have to subscribe to rank feeder. It's a great service though. So, but as far as using YouTube RSS feeds for regular syndication stuff now, no, I don't recommend it. It's not worth it. They don't embed anymore. So. All right, I think that's it. Sorry, guys, we couldn't get to the rest of. Oh, there's only a couple more, anyways. But we got to wrap it up. We got masterclass starting in 5 minutes. So thanks for everybody being here. We will see you guys in masterclass in a few minutes. Those of you that are here, those of you that are not, we'll see the rest of you next week. Okay. Thanks everybody for helping out.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.